Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to Open Mic here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an honor and a privilege, as it is every day, to have you guys joining me. And this is our just open format show, just a bunch of friends standing around a virtual water cooler talking about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news. On the John Campea show earlier in the day, we save about 15 minutes to take some live questions, but all we do for this hour is take live questions. So, without any further ado, let's dive right into it. And the first question today comes to us from Curtis Lopez, who writes, what was the first Disney movie you saw? Oh, the first Disney film I saw? I want to say Pinocchio. I want to say Pinocchio is the first Disney movie my family showed me, my parents showed me. So, I mean, it could have been another one of them, like a Cinderella or something like that, but I'm going to go out on a limb and guess, wild guess here, I think it's going to be Pinocchio. All right, next one. Curtis Lopez writes, what do you think of Disney's Fantasia? One of my all-time favorites. Oh, I love it. I love Fantasia. It's fantastic. I mean, I'm not going to say it's one of my all-time favorites. It's certainly great, and I have a great fondness for it, but I wouldn't myself personally say it's one of my favorites. I know a few people actually hate it, which I've never understood that. I've never understood how you hate Fantasia, but hey, there it is. Luke1234 writes, what are some things you don't like about Canada? Oh, something I don't like about Canada. Man, I don't know. Nothing. I mean, really, what is there not to like? The only thing I don't think I like, see, I think we have a better political system in Canada, and I certainly believe we have a much better political atmosphere in Canada. But I would say the one thing that I don't like is that, no, there's not even that. You know what? I'd have to think about that. I'm really not sure anything I don't like about Canada. It's pretty awesome. Mason Barr writes, where can I go to buy these hot toys? First time I heard about them was on your show. I'm intrigued. Thanks, and loving the content. Thanks. Well, the best thing to do for hot toys, there are shops you can go to. Like there's a shop here in Burbank called Blast from the Past that carries a lot of hot toys. But you can't just walk into, I was going to say Toys R Us. You can't walk into Toys R Us. You can't just walk into a Walmart or a Target and find them. They don't carry them because they're a little too pricey. The best thing to do is just go to their online store. That's really the best place. But then, maybe some comic shops or collectibles places in your town, like some individual chains or stores, might carry them. Other than that, the best thing to do is just hop online. I'm lucky. I've got a shop right up the road called Blast from the Past in Burbank that carries an awful lot of them. But the best thing to do is look for them online. So just search hot toys. You should find them no problem. But be careful, man, because they're like tattoos. Once you get one, it's tough to stop. Like I got one and then I ended up with like 4 or 5. So, and I kind of forced myself not to buy any more, but it can become addictive getting these hot toy things. So just be very, very careful about that. Let's see. John P writes, what was your job when we are talking about CG? Oh yeah. So I used to work with a company, up in Canada. I used to work for this, computer company, and it was owned by a couple friends of mine. And I was mostly like a producer and a client services guy. So basically my job was I was mostly responsible for being the go-between between the client and our artists. So I acted as a producer in some way, and then I handled any overflow work that needed to be done. So there were some things I could do. And now our 3D animation tool of choice was a tool by New Tech called Lightwave. I don't even know if Lightwave's around anymore, but that's what we used at the time. So I could do some rudimentary things in Lightwave. I was, proficient a little bit in After Effects. I could do compositing, things like that. So, the odd time when we would have like a big movie job going on and all the artists were like busy working on that, but we also had this like little commercial that we had to do for a local telecommunications company, then I would just do the commercial myself, like from start to finish, literally. But yeah, for the most part, producer, and then a client services guy, and then I'd do a little bit of the overflow, easier work just to take it off our other artists' place. So that's what I did when I worked in the field. All right, Lee Page writes, more influential on today's youth, the MCU or Star Wars? On today's youth? Well, probably the MCU for now. But the MCU hasn't come anywhere close to the level of Star Wars yet, and its overall, pop cultural impact hasn't come anywhere close yet. Talk to me in 30 years. If the MCU is still a big, huge thing in 30 years, let's have a conversation. But like what's hot at the moment? MCU, definitely. Although, when you look at the box office numbers, I mean, the Star Wars movies are still doing better. I mean, look, we've had 3 Star Wars movies, all of them over $1 billion. All of them, without exception. Black Panther was the first one in 5 or 6, maybe more. The Black Panther was the first one since Ultron to cross $1 billion mark. Whereas Star Wars has just put out 3 movies, and even a little spin-off movie like Rogue One crossed $1 billion. So, I mean, it's tough to say. It's a good question, but it's tough to say right now. Sam Fisher writes, started watching Sons of Anarchy, really good, but open mic spoiled Tara's death for me. Well, dude, what do you want me to tell you? I mean, you're talking about episodes that happened 4 years ago. At some point you can talk, there comes a time limit when you can talk about things that happen in a television or so. Like, hey, if it just happened last week, or if it happened last month even, that was something that happened 4 years ago. Hey, guess what? There are people who know Bruce Willis is a ghost before they watch The Sixth Sense. I mean, at some point, you can't blame somebody for talking about spoilers when it's been years since that was a thing. So, sorry about that, but I mean, it is what it is. It won't affect your enjoyment of the show overall, though. Jeff Kang writes, 420 is coming. Grandma's Boy is the first movie I got high to. Have you seen it? I love Grandma's Boy. Grandma's Boy, to me, I remember I saw that movie in theater, and I remember not a lot of people liked it, and it wasn't getting great reviews, and I love Grandma's Boy. That movie to me is freaking hilarious. That movie is absolutely genius. Dante, I mean, I love that movie. It's great. Not enough people have seen Grandma's Boy. And it's really funny because the guy who's the lead in it, you never really see him in anything. You see a lot of the supporting cast and a ton of stuff, but the guy who was like the lead dude in Grandma's Boy, you barely see him in anything, which is a shame. I love Grandma's Boy. I don't smoke weed, but I love Grandma's Boy. All right, next one. Mike Zambrano writes, everyone talks about the movie Creed, but I think Southpaw was a much better film overall. What are your thoughts? And by the way, you're the best show on YouTube. Thank you so much, Mike. I'll disagree with you on that. I wasn't a big fan of Southpaw. I thought Southpaw was okay. Definitely a great performance by Jake Gyllenhaal, for sure. But to be honest with you, I was not impressed all that much. It's good. It's good. I liked it. Thumbs up. Recommend it. But it's not a movie that stuck with me. I remember walking out feeling like they really dropped the ball on several things in the movie. Whereas Creed, I just felt like it just crushed it on every level. I thought Creed was great. So and I'm sure you're not alone. I'm sure there are other people out there that prefer Southpaw. For me, it wasn't all it could be. I felt like the potential was there to be something really special, and it just never got there. It was a good movie, but it never, to me, was able to move beyond just being a good movie. You know what I mean? So, I'll personally take Creed. I'll take Creed. But hey, I'm sure you're not alone. I'm sure there are others who would take Southpaw as well. All right. Cameron Belgrade writes, how would you rank the James Bond movie actors? For me, it would be Craig, Connery, Dalton over Moore, Brosnan, Lazenby. I'll probably go Craig, Connery, Moore, Bronson, Dalton, Lazenby. That's how I'll go with it. So not terribly unsimilar to yours, but that's the way I go. See, a lot of people still look at me funny and sacrilegious when I say Daniel Craig's my favorite Bond. And I think it's because like the two Bonds that are the most iconic and the templates for Bond are Roger Moore and Sean Connery. They're the templates. They're the molds for Bond. And they were very different Bonds. One is the badass Bond, which you got more in Connery, and the suave Roger Moore Bond. Now, the suave Roger Moore Bond had some badassery. The badass Sean Connery Bond had some suaveness too, sure. But one was the badass, one was the suave. And I found Daniel Craig more than Pierce Brosnan, more than Dalton. Daniel Craig was the hybrid of the two. He was the badassery of Sean Connery and the suaveness of Roger Moore, and that's why, to me, he's kind of my all-time favorite Bond. All right. Let's see. Amin writes, Ready Player One week number 2 percentage drop-off prediction. Hard to say. I think it's getting really good positive word of mouth, but at the same time, it's going into its second week against Blockers for the comedy route and A Quiet Place, which they're saying could get about 30 million. So I'm going to go 55%. Wild guess, but I'm going to go the percentage drop-off for Ready Player One will be 55%. That's why I'm guessing it around there. So I hope it's less than that, but we'll have to wait and see. Curtis Lopez writes, what's your first memory of going to any of the Disney parks? Well, it was only a few years ago that I went to my first Disney park. We had no Disney parks in Canada. So my first Disney park was Disneyland here in California. And it was only a few years ago because I never went to one until I moved to California. So yeah, and I remember my first trip, I did the Indiana Jones ride. And to this day, it remains my favorite ride at Disneyland. That Indiana Jones ride to me is still my absolute favorite ride at Disneyland. So I absolutely love it. Let's see. Ben Rayner writes, people online keep saying Kylo lied to Rey about her parents, but I don't get this theory because wasn't she the first one to say it? He just egged her on to say it. Yeah. Anybody who says that Kylo lied to her is just wrong. They're just wrong. In the first one to say it, Kylo never said it. She's the one who said it. She's the one who said her parents were nobody. And that she's known it all along. Deep down, she's always known that was the case. So, yeah, and I keep trying to point that out to people. It's like, oh, Kylo lied to her. Actually, he's not the one who said it. She's the one who said it. It's just that. So, I mean, all movies are subjective. But factually speaking, just looking at the facts of the movie, the thought that Kylo just lied to her is just factually wrong. That's factually incorrect. So no, Kylo didn't lie to her because she's the one who said it first. So you're right on the money there, Ben. That is exactly what happened. She said it first. He didn't plant it in her head. He didn't say it. All he said to her is like, he just said to her, like you've always known. And she goes, my parents were nobody. She knew. And that's just that's the end of the discussion right there, really. Chris Parker writes, Rotten Tomatoes system is binary, fresh, rotten. Over half of the critics may like a film, yet it's branded rotten. Isn't that a disproportionately negative label? Is there an argument for middle ground, 49 to 59% equals ripe? I mean, who cares? I mean, look, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if there's a tomato or a rotten tomato. I just look at the number. I don't care what symbol they put beside the number. That means nothing to me. I guess to Rotten Tomatoes, they say, hey, just having 51% isn't good enough to say fresh. I mean, we kind of feel like to say fresh, you got to at least be 60. Okay, I don't care because I never look for the tomato or the splat. I don't care about that. I just look at the number. That's the only thing. And the number is just a pure number. What percentage of critics like the movie? That's all it is. If it's a 51, that just means 51% of the critics like the movie. It means they're basically split. If the number's 70, it means 70% of the critics like the movie, which means there's a fairly significant majority. To me, what symbol they put beside it is completely irrelevant. To me, it's completely irrelevant. So I really don't care. They could say the cutoff line is 75%. It still wouldn't make any difference to me. I'm just looking at the number. That's it. So I think it's a non-discussion, to be honest with you, Chris. I really don't think it's an issue really even worth talking about. The only thing that's worth talking about to me is the number itself. And as long as the number is as pure as a simple, what percentage of critics say they like the movie? That's it. What percentage of the critics say it's a movie worth seeing? 90%? 33%? 51%? I mean, that's all that really matters to me. So at what number grade they decide to give a little symbol, I don't know. Because honestly, I could never tell you what the symbol is. I never look at the symbol. I just look at the number. That's just me. Trevor Johnson writes, the trailer for Upgrade looks great. Getting hyped. Yeah, we mentioned this on the show the other day. If you haven't seen the Red Band trailer for Upgrade, oh my God. Oh my God. The trailer for Upgrade. Go on YouTube, search for Upgrade Red Band trailer, find it and watch it and thank me later. It is fun. And it looks fascinating. It does look fascinating, but oh my God, that trailer is fun. And I am just, remember, I always say that the job of a trailer is to get you more interested in seeing a movie. Then job well done, because I'm salivating to see this movie now. So yeah, definitely look it up, check it out. All right, next one here comes to us from the number Thor, who writes, with the Sith having an apprentice with Maul in one Dooku. Oh, number Thor, you already asked that question. You've asked this specific question, and it's in today's companion video that is going up a little bit later this afternoon. Actually, probably like within a half hour after we're done this show, I'm going to post the companion video. So that number's already asked, and I spent some time answering that question on the companion video. So just check for the answer on that on the companion video. Jose M. writes, thoughts on Zack Snyder as a filmmaker. Personally, I believe he is underrated and misunderstood filmmaker whose filmography is ahead of its time. Well, I'll disagree with you on that. I am a Zack Snyder fan. To me, Man of Steel, one of the best comic book movies ever made. I have it in my top 10 best comic book films of all time list. I adore that movie. To me, it gets better and better with every single viewing. It is a masterpiece of the genre. Of the comic book genre, it's a masterpiece film. I love it. And I think every time I watch it, it gets better and better and better. I still don't know why people don't appreciate it the same way I do, but I think it's brilliant. However, he's also made bags of shit at the same time. And hey, look, Spielberg made The Terminal. I think Spielberg is the greatest filmmaker of all time. But even he made The Terminal. To me, like, Sucker Punch was Zack Snyder's Terminal. That movie was awful. And Ann and I have a friend who's one of the stars of that movie, and it's just awful. And, you know, hey, Batman vs. Superman, I liked it, but it wasn't as good as it could have been. Justice League, I want to go see it 7 times in theaters, but it could have been better. Whenever a filmmaker is misunderstood, then, you know, it's your job as a filmmaker to make the audience understand. And if you as a filmmaker are misunderstood, then that's on the filmmaker. That's not the audience's fault. It's not the audience's job to get the filmmaker. It's the filmmaker's job to make their films in such a way that it communicates effectively to the audience. That's the filmmaker's job. And to make it as intricate and complex and nuanced and whatever, and finding that balance to make sure you can do all that, and yet it still communicates it effectively to the audience. And so whenever you try to blame the audience, that's a red flag. Whenever you try to blame the audience. I am a Zack Snyder fan. Especially, you know, it's funny because we just talked the other day about this other little film of his that nobody talks about. And it's the Rise of the Guardians, the Owls of Gaul. I really like that film. It's an animated film. Not a lot of people talk about it on Zack Snyder's filmography. I really like that movie, and I wish more people talked about it. But no, hey, look, if your movie completely divides the audience and the critics don't like it and stuff like that, then the issue isn't the audience. The issue is the filmmaker in that one regard. Worked for me, but no, I don't think he's underrated. I don't think he's misunderstood. But I'm super excited to see what he does next, away from the DCEU, because I think he's just been on the DCEU too long, and I don't like it when directors stay on one thing for too long. But I'm excited to see what he does next. All right. KW Garrett writes, for a cheesy heist movie, I recommend Heist with Hackman and DeVito. Dialogue is laughable. My mother effer is so cool. When he goes to bed, sheep count him. Oh my God. It has been forever since I've seen that movie. Hold a second. It has been for frickin' ever. That's not the one I'm looking for. Hold a second. Let's even see if I can find it. Yeah, there it is. There it is. Delroy Lindo is in that movie too, by the way. And that's a dude who's not in enough movies. Lindo's amazing when he pops up in films. Gotta tell ya, not one of my favorites. I think I may have seen that one twice. It's definitely got some fun moments, but I don't know that I love that one nearly as much. But I always like seeing Lindo in that stuff. Dakota Barber writes, with Infinity War press tour starting. I'm getting more excited for the movie. Only 2.5 more weeks till I see it on the 26th. I can't wait. I know this is a great movie event, right? Like all of us hyping up, getting excited for Infinity War is a great movie event, and I'm really stoked to see it too. I'm hoping I'm going to see it twice before it opens. So I'm going to go to the premiere on the 23rd. But then I'm like, as soon as the premiere is done, I'm getting on a plane flying to Vegas for CinemaCon. And they have shown, Disney has done screenings of their upcoming Marvel films at CinemaCon a number of times. So I'm really hoping that when I get to CinemaCon, they're going to be doing a screening of Infinity War. I have a feeling they are going to, I don't know this for a fact, but I have a good feeling they're going to do a screening for it there. So I'm hoping that I'm going to get to see it on the 23rd, and then I'm going to get to see it on the 24th. So fingers crossed. I really hope. Let's see. Next one comes to us from Warren Lucas, who writes, when estimating if a big budget film breaks even, you add 30 to 50 million for ads. For a movie budget of A Quiet Place, 17 million, how much typically is spent on ads? It really depends movie to movie. Like there are some movies you can't even say 50, you got to say 100. There are some movies that clearly spent like 100 plus million, whatever. For something like A Quiet Place, I'm guessing they probably spent around the 30 million mark for marketing. I mean, there are movies that they definitely spend more money on the marketing than they do on the production value of the film. So I'm going to guess, my sense is they probably spent in that $30 to $50 million range for A Quiet Place. I've seen a good amount of ads for it. I've seen it on billboards and television spots and the trailers playing in movie theaters. I've seen it all over the place. So not a huge, massive campaign, but definitely a decent sized campaign. It's probably coming in around there. That's just my guess. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm guessing that's probably where it comes in about. Prince JP 4321 writes, do you think Thanos has the mind and soul stones, but they are CGI out of the trailer? Mentioned that before, like that exact question's come up about 18 times already. And I'll say again what I said before. I don't see why they would do that. Like, if they were trying to do that, why CGI out 2? Why not CGI out 1? Why not CGI all of them out? Why not just CGI out the gauntlet? Like, because people will say, but John, in the one Infinity War thing, they CG back in Thor's eye. Well, that's because another movie was coming out, Thor Ragnarok, that showing Thor with that out would have been a major spoiler for a different movie altogether. So that's not the same situation. We're talking about a trailer for the same movie it's representing versus a trailer for something that could contain a major spoiler for another movie that's coming out. Different situation. So to me, no, I don't think they CGI'd out the stones. I don't think he has more stones than those at that point in the film. Again, I mean, they might. It's totally possible. But to me, it's like, well, then why not just CGI out the gauntlet at all? Like, if you're going to have the Thanos shot and you want to show Cap holding off his hand, why not just CGI out the gauntlet? Why not just make it look like Thanos is throwing the punch with the other hand? That seems a lot easier and make a lot more sense. So, no, I don't think so. It's possible. It is possible, but I think it's unlikely. But hey, we're gonna find out in like 2.5 weeks, Prince. We only got about 2.5 more weeks till we find out. Warren Lucas writes, when you showed the dice earlier today, I thought of Star Trek The Next Generation when Picard was tortured, shouted, there are 4 lights! 4! I remember that episode when it was the Cardassian, right? I think that's the episode you're talking about, when the Cardassian prisoner. So yeah, I pulled out 4 dice. Now you may be asking, well, John, why the 1 red dice? For those of you who know the D6 system of the West End game Star Wars role-playing game system, the odd color dice is the wild dice, which comes into play big. But yes, they're all 4 lights right there. So this is my Star Wars role-playing game dice box where I keep all my Star Wars role-playing game dice. Jordan Frey writes, can we get a Carson Drive community watch shirt? Oh, that's a great idea. Love the story yesterday. The neighborhood always knows. Oh, thank you so much. You know, it's funny. Because I told the story about my street. When I started working for myself again, I had to start a new company. I had to start an LLC, a limited liability corporation. And I had to give my company a name. and I named my company Carson Drive Media. And it's the name of the street that I grew up on. All my fondest memories are there. And that is it. But I love the idea of a shirt, the Carson Drive Community Watch shirt. That's great. I love that because that does go with the story very well that I told yesterday, doesn't it? All right. Walden. Oops. Okay. This happens every episode. Don't worry, guys. We're like the list catches up with how many questions have been sent in. Let's see. There's Walden. We're caught up to speed now. Walden writes, "Hey, John, spoilers can be a showstopper. Hashtag buzzkill. Yeah, earlier today on the John Campea show, somebody, I won't repeat what it was they asked, but somebody, I'm sure they weren't meaning to spoil anything. They were just excited. I get it. I mean, so look, no hate on anybody, but somebody didn't think for a moment and wrote, 'Did you see this episode of this, which was just on the night before?' And went on to say what happened in it in their question. And it's like, and then the chat board kind of exploded. Like, come on. And that's why I said, come on, guys, you think a little bit. I understand he wasn't trying to spoil anything. He was just excited. But, you know, take a second and think before you write something in here because it was a big major spoiler. It was a significant major spoiler. And it's unfortunate that that happened. I'm sure it was an accident. Hey, I've accidentally, you know, let a spoiler slip when I'm going, like, I've done it. I'm sure you've done it in conversations. This guy did it earlier today. I'm sure there was no ill intention involved. But yeah, think a little bit before you throw up a question and ask yourself, could this be a spoiler? That's important. Pensive Ruin writes, "Every day people talk about how much they hate spoilers, but every damn day they send in questions with speculations about who's going to die in Infinity War." Well, those are two different things, Pensive. There's two different things. Like, it's one thing to speculate and guess and imagine what could be the possibility, seeing if your guess comes right, all that kind of stuff. That is radically different from a real spoiler. All right? That's radically different. Like, for instance, you could like if you were having conversations before watching The Empire Strikes Back and going, you know, they talked about Luke's dad, but do you think Obi-Wan's his dad? Do you think maybe Obi-Wan was actually his real father and stuff like that? Well, you know, maybe that Grand Moff Tarkin guy, or maybe, what if Vader, like we never see his face and everything under that. Maybe, what if he is? Blah, blah, blah. That's different from spoilers. That's all different from having a guy come in, oh, by the way, hey, I saw Empire Strikes Back. Vader is the dad. Now the imagination of it is gone. The speculation's gone. All that's gone. It's been spoiled. So I don't think the guessing and the speculation and the imagining, that's fun. That's just part of being a film fan. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not the same thing as a spoiler. That's guessing because you can have your guess, but you're never going to know if you're right until you go into that theater and watch it and find out. Being told definitively what is that happens, that's different. That's a totally horse of a different color. To quote Wizard of Oz, that's a horse of a different color. That's a totally different thing. So I disagree with you, Pensive. I don't think you can compare one to the other. I do not agree with the comparison of talking and speculating. That's the fun of it, because you never know if you're right or wrong, versus an actual spoiler being told what actually happens. That ends the discussion. That ends the speculation. That ends all of it. That ends the mystery. It takes all of that out of it. You can have 50 questions and theories and hypotheses about it, but you're never going to know until you know. And that's the difference between the speculation and the discussion and the fun versus an actual spoiler. So I'm going to disagree with you on that, buddy. I don't see those things as comparing them. I don't see those as comparisons at all. Lincoln Johnson writes, "I suggest you check out the Netflix movie Hush. It would be a great companion to A Quiet Place." Why do I think I've seen Hush? Or am I thinking of the Batman storyline? I might be thinking of the Batman storyline. Hush. Okay, you're talking about the one with John Gallagher Jr. and Kate Siegel. No, I have not seen that. I have never even heard of it, to be honest. So, okay. I will put that one on my radar. I've never heard of it, but now it's on my radar. Thank you for the suggestion, man. All right, next up. Dakota Barber writes, "Have you seen Hush? Great Netflix film." Wait a minute. was that just coincidence? Did you guys just coincidentally put that out at the same time? That's funny if it did. Canada Rocks, yes it does, writes, follow up on yesterday's conversation regarding franchise time. Use time, not number episodes. Simpsons, 232 hours. Star Trek, 561 hours. CSI, 581 hours. Law and Order, 806 hours. You did some research, my man. So somebody was basically asking, what do you think do you think any franchise or series has had more screen time than Star Trek? And I said, man, that's hard to imagine. I mean, maybe The Simpsons, because it's been on for like 30 years, whatever. So somebody went and did some actual research, and it looks like the winner is Law and Order. Law and Order with 806 hours of television. Well done, Canada Rocks. Well done. Nice research in there. This is the best thing about it being a community here. It's not just me with my incredibly limited knowledge and what I know. It's about what does the community know. And I love the fact, Canada Rocks, that you took some time, went and researched that shit for us, and you came back to share it with the rest of us. Thank you. That's awesome. That's the film fan community, dude. All right. Dylan Robbins writes, what did you think about Small Soldiers? Oh, which one is... Because I'm thinking of the Tommy Lee Jones one, and I'm sure that's not the one I should be thinking of. Which one is that? There are a couple... Oh, you know what? This is the one I was thinking of, but it's not Tommy Lee Jones. It's the one with Dennis Leary. But this is the movie. For whatever reason, I thought, if you're talking about like the 1996 one or the 1998 one, that's the one I'm thinking of. Because there's another one too. There's a 19... Oh, no, these are both the same thing. Oh, these are all the same thing. Okay, fair enough. Anyway. Small Soldiers Squad Commander, 1998. Which one is that? So there are different ones? Small Soldiers Squad Commander, and that one does have Tommy Lee Jones. Okay, I'm a little bit confused. But anyway, thinking of the movie that I am thinking of, didn't love it. If I'm thinking of the right movie, honestly, didn't love it. It was one of those animated films that kind of came and went for me, to be honest with you. So I don't really think about it too awful much. Let's see. Tin214 writes, have you ever seen Dan Murrell without his hat? To be honest, no, honestly. And I've seen Dan Murrell outside of studios a lot. Like, he's at most screenings that I go to as well. Now that you mention it, I don't think it's kind of like Kevin Feige. I've never seen him without a hat. So no, I haven't, come to think of it. It's kind of his look. It's part of his look. Luna Comics writes, it frustrates me when people say a movie sucks and don't explain why. Like Suicide Squad. Well, no, everybody's allowed to say they love a movie or they hate a movie. Like, no one owes anybody else an explanation. Like, I can say, I love Jaws. Oh, what? I got to spend 3 minutes now explain why? Why can't I just say I love Jaws? Or I thought that movie was terrible. Like, it doesn't bother me in the least. I mean, look, I've gone into detail about the things I like about Suicide Squad and the things I thought were a hot bloody mess about Suicide Squad. I still gave Suicide Squad a positive review. You remember that's the one where I dressed up like Harley Quinn. I liked the movie. I had fun with it. I thought the good outweighed the bad, but there's bad. Now, I'm a film critic, though. It is my job to go into, when I do a review, to tell you why I liked a film, what things about it I liked, and which things I didn't like about it. That's my job. It's not anybody else's job. If somebody just feels like they want to share, I didn't like that movie, they don't owe you an explanation. If they're a friend of yours and you want a little bit of a back and forth with them, say to them, well, give me more. Like, what is it you didn't like about it? But, see, here's the thing, Luna. You got to be very careful to make it sound like somebody needs to justify their opinion. No one needs to justify it. Look, they saw the movie, they didn't like it. They don't need to justify not liking it. They watched it and they didn't like it. Some people are good at articulating what they like and don't like about a movie. Some people don't. Not a big deal. I wouldn't let it bother you, to be honest with you. I just let that slide. I'd say move past that. Don't worry about that. Don't let that part bother you. A lot of other things for us to be bothered over. I'd let that one go. Let's see. Walden writes, hey, John, Midnight Run is my favorite De Niro movie. Hands down, so underrated. Great banter between the characters. Have a great weekend. You know what's funny? I've never heard anybody mention that as their favorite De Niro film. which is awesome, which I think is great. Because, when people ask me about my favorite Spielberg film, my favorite Spielberg film is a film that most other people have never even heard of, which is Amistad. And most people have certainly never watched it. I love that movie with Djimon Hounsou. It's amazing. I think it's Spielberg's best work. But very few people agree with me. So I think that's really cool that you mentioned that one. I always find it cool when somebody mentions a film that is not the first on your thought list. So that's a cool one. John D'Amato writes, John, wanted to ask, are you going to watch the new Lost in Space show on Netflix? Yeah, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to watch it. I think there's a lot of people very curious about it. So here's what I think I'm going to do. You know what? And let me just double check the launch date for it. It's April 13th, so it's next week. So here's what I think I'm going to do. I'm probably going to watch episode number 1. And if I don't like it, I'll ditch it and go back to it sometime later. If I like episode 1, then I'll probably binge the whole thing in one setting. What I normally do, and this is not healthy, what I normally do with Netflix series like Punisher or Defenders, I binge watch it the moment it's released. So I try to plan my sleeping schedule accordingly, but like at 12:01 midnight, I will stay up, I'll pull an all-nighter, and I'll watch the entire season. And then I'll do a review of it. If I like the first episode. If I don't, I probably won't bother doing a review of it. I'll just, maybe catch up on the episodes later. If I hate the first episode, I'll just ditch the show and not go back to it. But yes, I am absolutely going to check it out. Going to admit, I haven't been blown away by the trailers. I know there are people out there, maybe you're one of them, that have loved the trailers for it. I haven't. I thought they're okay. Nothing bad. But nothing to get, my engine revving or anything like that. But I am curious about it. I am definitely going to check it out. And if I like it, like I said, if I like the first episode, I'll binge it and then do a quick review of it. Okay, next one. Dim-Sum05 writes, replacing all the theaters with dine-in theaters would help alleviate movie disruptions because the waiters are always on standby. I'll be honest with you. And maybe this is just me. Maybe because, when you're in a movie, especially in movies that are over 2 hours, hey, people got to go to the bathroom. Courteous people, if they feel a call, like their phone vibrating, a call's coming in, courteous people stand up, walk outside of the theater, take their call. I've always appreciated that very much. By the way, if you're one of those people, thank you. Somebody, had more popcorn than they thought they were going to and realizing they're really thirsty, up and go to the theater. I'll be honest with you, since I'm just so used to that as a moviegoer, that stuff doesn't bother me. I honestly don't find somebody, saying, excuse me, to go to the bathroom. That doesn't really take me out of the movie. As much as somebody talking over here, or you can see somebody's got the light on from their phone because they're texting on their phone. That shit really bothers me. But, people coming and going, as long as it's not 8 times in a movie, but somebody coming and going, whatever, I'm just so used to that, it doesn't really distract me at all. But, see, the thing about dine-in theaters, one of the big questions I had going into my first dine-in theater experience, because you can just hit a button and a waiter will come to you, or you can just, whatever, and they'll bring your food right to you and stuff like that. I thought, oh, that'll be distracting. Like having a waiter come in and leave. But you know what I found? I found it didn't bother me at all. And maybe it's because as a film goer, I'm so programmed to being used to, hey, someone comes in, someone comes out, no big deal. Like maybe it's because I'm so used to that a waiter quietly coming in and out and bringing food and shit like that. Maybe that's why it didn't bother me at all, because I was really expecting that in my first dine-in theater experience. I was really expecting that to be a distraction to me, and it didn't end up being a distraction, which is, really great. All right. Next, Jaron Morris just sends in a super chat. Thank you so much, Jaron. Mac Sauce writes, what do you think about Michael Jai White for Blade instead of Boyega? And I hope I spelt that right. He was always my number one choice. Well, Boyega has already made it clear. Like, you can kill any of those rumors. John Boyega already made it clear he was not playing Blade. He made that very, very clear. He came right out explicitly and said he ain't playing Blade. And that he would consider him playing Blade a spit in the face of Wesley Snipes. That's what he said. So don't worry about Boyega playing Blade. That ain't going to happen. Michael Jai White? Like, make him Caesar. Make him Julius Caesar. I don't care. I love Michael Jai White. I think I became like I already liked his stuff, but I became a lifelong Michael Jai White fan with Black Dynamite. You guys hear me talk about Black Dynamite all the time. That movie is so unbelievably imaginative and creative and witty, and I just love it. I love Black Dynamite. So I became a card-carrying, lifelong member of the Michael Jai White fan club after Black Dynamite. Michael Jai White as Blade, sure. The one problem, let me just look this up here to be sure, might be his age. It might be a little late for him to start a new franchise with a Blade character. And let me just say, so Michael Jai White's 50, so he ain't old by any stretch of the imagination. He ain't old. But it might be a little late to start a Blade franchise with an actor who's 50 years old. Unless if you just want to use him for 2 or 3 movies, then great, sure. But hey, look, if they announce tomorrow that Michael Jai White was Blade, I'm all for it. I'm all on board for it. Okay, let's see. James Welsh writes, Footloose, Dirty Dancing, or Flashdance? The Kevin Bacon Footloose. Every day. Kevin Bacon Footloose every single day. Manny Garcia writes, what question would you want definitely answered in episode 9? Oh, I don't even know if I have any questions. Like, I've never cared who Snoke is. To me, it's an irrelevant piece of information that's not important to the story. Well, I mean, what happens to Leia? But they're definitely going to answer that. So that's not even a mystery. Honestly, I don't have any questions going into Star Wars Episode 9. I don't have any questions that are really like pounding in my head about, oh, we got to know what this is. I don't have any. So I'm just kind of going into Episode 9 with a clean slate. To be honest with you, like seriously, I'm not trying to dodge the question, but I honestly don't have any questions going into it. So let's see. Canada Rocks writes, glad you agree, Canada Rocks. Well, I mean, look where I'm from. ETT Media writes, did you hear that John Krasinski is down for playing Reed Richards along with Emily Blunt and Sue Storm? Well, maybe you weren't watching my show the other day, but of course he is. Every actor is. No actor, if asked, would you be down for playing Reed Richards, is going to say no. Even if deep down they don't want to, they're going to say yes. They don't want to insult anybody. So of course they're going to say yes. That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean a thing. Like seriously, if you went on the red carpet and Brad Pitt was on the red carpet and somebody said to Brad Pitt, hey, would you be down for playing Reed Richards if they offered it to you? He's going to say yes. That doesn't mean he would really do it, but he's going to say yes. Every actor would say yes. 99% of them because they want the work. And the 1% of them that are like Brad Pitt's are still going to say yes just so they don't offend anybody. The only person who would probably say no is Christian Bale because he's been pretty adamant that he's never going to play a superhero again. But that's besides the point. Every actor is going to say yes. It always makes me laugh when somebody says, John, did you see that in this and this interview, somebody asked this actor if they would want to be in a Star Wars movie? And they said yes. Does that mean they'll be in a Star Wars movie? No. So it means nothing. I love John Krasinski. I love Emily Blunt. But then Krasinski saying that he'd be down for it, that is the exact answer every actor would give. Every actor would say the same thing, so it's not news and it's not worth talking about it. Now, would I be down if they announced tomorrow that John Krasinski was going to play Reed Richards? Absolutely. I'm down for that completely. I'm totally down for that. But this, so somebody putting a microphone in John Krasinski's face saying, hey, would you be down for playing, Reed in Fantastic Four? And him saying, yeah, of course, sure. That's not worth talking about. It's really not worth talking about. Tommy Hartsock writes, getting ready for work, bartending in a bowling alley. What is your highest bowling score? I suck at bowling. I suck at a lot of stuff, but I particularly suck at bowling. 2 things right now that I really suck at are Fortnite and bowling. And I have a ball bowling. I love going bowling with my friends. I have a great time bowling with friends. It's a fun activity. But I suck. I think my most recent bowling outing, which was about maybe 2 months ago, I got my all-time high score. And that, I think, was about 118. I think 118 is my all-time high score, and I just got that a couple weeks ago. That's right, ladies. You know I'm hot. I got 118 bowling, and that's my all-time high score. So that's just how bad of a bowler I am. I'm terrible, but I have fun doing it. Darth Impact writes, "Hey John, who's the bigger Toronto fan? You for your Maple Leafs or Drake for his Raptors?" Oh, me for my Maple Leafs. Yeah, no, that's just easy. I bleed blue and white. I don't talk about the Leafs a lot on the show because nobody in this country watches hockey, apparently, which is complete. I kid you not. I remember a few years ago, there was this big playoff run going on. It was Anaheim. Mighty Ducks were in this big playoff run, right? They were like going into the semifinals. I believe it was the semifinals, the conference finals. Anyway, and I was staying in Los Angeles. I called my LA buddy up. It was actually Soul Video. It was Soul, my buddy from the Fine Brothers, and who went with me last night to see Rampage, actually. And remember, I called him up and said, "Hey, come on over. We're going to watch hockey. I know you don't watch a lot of hockey, but come on over, man. We're going to watch hockey tonight." He's like, "All right." He comes over. Nobody's televising it. I'm like, what kind of ass backwards country is this? I mean, the city's just up the street. It's the semifinals, and it's not on television anywhere. And I remember being just so deflated about that. So I don't even talk about hockey. But I'm sure Drake likes the Raptors. That's good. That's good. That's wonderful. Let me just look up something here. When were the Toronto Raptors established? I believe the answer to that is going to be 94 or 95. And the answer is 95. Okay, that's great. 95. Hey, good way to go. I was a bleed blue and white Toronto Maple Leaf fan decades, or at least a decade and a half, before the Raptors even began. So I'm sure Drake is a huge Raptors fan. That's awesome, and I'm glad that he is. But don't try to compare how much of a Raptors fan Drake is compared to how much of a Leafs fan I am. I'm just saying. I'm not saying I'm the biggest in the world. I'm not. I'm sure I'm not. But yeah, I mean, my whole emotional health is based on how well the Leafs do. But I just don't talk about it on my show much because nobody watches hockey, unfortunately, in this country, particularly. Gareth Tucson writes, I thought Obi-Wan saying first steps in The Force Awakens was a Force thing, not a lineage thing. Rey could recognize... I already answered that question. I mean, that might have been yet another question that that you may have already asked, Gareth. And I answered, if I didn't already answer it earlier in this show right now, then I already answered it in the companion video. And the companion video is coming up today. The companion video is coming up today, so don't worry, that question was answered. It was either answered earlier today or was answered earlier in the show. But it is already been answered, believe me. So just check the companion video when it goes up in a little bit. Luna writes, how do you feel about a Flash Rogues movie that takes inspiration from Hell or High Water? I'll be honest with you, Luna. I don't know what it is you're asking. I really don't. Do me a favor. Email me. Email me, Luna, and flesh out what it is you're asking so I get a better idea of what it is you're getting at there. Because it sounds like you got a neat idea in your head. I just can't make out what it is you're trying to communicate. Tin214 writes, I lived in Saudi Arabia in 2006 or 2000 to 2006. Interesting to see they're opening up to more things. I always had to go to neighboring countries to do anything. Yeah, and of course, for those who missed, the big thing, of course, is that Saudi Arabia is now opening their first movie theaters. It's an AMC theater that they're opening up there. I believe they said it's April 15th. It is the first movie theater opening up in over 3 decades. In over 3 decades, they haven't had their movie theaters weren't allowed. And now it is. And on April 15th, the first movie they're showing is Black Panther. So yeah, it is really cool that they're trying to move more into the modern world. Let's see. Manny Garcia writes, are you going to Star Wars night in Disneyland on May 3rd? Don't know. Disneyland's really expensive now. Like really stupid expensive. Which I guess they kind of have to make it more expensive because seriously, up until just 5-6 months ago, Ann and I had season passes. We've had season passes for the past 3 or 4 years. But they've got progressively more and more expensive. And I guess part of me gets it because I started going to Disneyland less and less, not because I didn't love Disneyland, but because it's always so crowded. Like, I feel like everywhere you walk, you're like this. It's so crowded. And I do not like shoulder to shoulder crammed in like sardine crowds. And I started going less and less. So I guess maybe if they raise the prices a bit, maybe it'll like thin it out a little bit. But it's really so expensive. I'm not going to buy my next Disney pass until Star Wars Land opens. When Star Wars Land opens, then I'll probably buy a pass. But I can't justify dropping like $150 for a ticket to go. I just can't. So when Star Wars Land opens, I'll get my membership again. Until then, probably not. Let's see. Jericho Leon writes, have you seen the Blu-ray extended cut of the Green Lantern Ryan Reynolds movie? It makes it so much better. Hal is more vulnerable and relatable. No, actually I didn't. I didn't even know there was an extended version of it. You know, here's the thing. I'm actually one of those people who I didn't hate the Green Lantern movie. There are things about it I hate. And overall, I don't think it was very good. But whereas a lot of people talk about it like on like movie 23 level awfulness, like just like one of the worst things ever, I didn't think it was that bad. I really didn't. I think there were good things about the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie, particularly Ryan Reynolds as Green Lantern. There are many things wrong with that movie. Ryan Reynolds as Green Lantern, as Hal Jordan, was not one of the problems. That was not one of the problems. A lot of other things were, Pooh Cloud, for example, but he was not one of the problems. And I thought he was a positive. I thought there were several other positives in the movie. Like all the stuff on Oa I thought was great. So overall, not a very good movie, but I didn't think it was nearly as bad as a lot of people. But again, Jericho, I didn't even know there was an extended edition, to be honest with you. So that's kind of cool that you're putting that on my radar. Thank you. Okay, got time for just a couple more questions. ZCMZ Zombie writes, what's better, IMAX 2D or 3D? Positive you've asked that question before, ZCM, 2D. 2D over 3D. You guys know I hate 3D, so 2D all day, every day. Isaac Marino writes, hey, John, so I heard your Super Chat speech, and it made me feel about Super Chatting you. By the way, do you, the band Muse? If so, what's your favorite song? No, I don't really listen to Muse, to be honest with you. Which Super Chat speech? I'm not even quite sure what Super Chat speech you're talking about, Isaac. Email me and let me know what you're talking about, just so I can better appreciate what it is you're saying. Old Flicks Joe writes, news, Thanos hot toy figure, $376. Oh, also, let me just look this up. Thanos hot toys. Let me see if I can find it here. Oh my goodness. Oh my God, it looks so cool. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can pull a picture for you guys here. Holy crap, this looks so sweet. Let me pull this picture up here for you guys. Look at this picture. Oh my word. Okay, let me see if I can scale this up for you a little bit. Oh wow. Oh, sorry guys. I'm supposed to be doing a show here and I'm just sitting here salivating over this Hot Toy statue. My God. Oh, I want it so bad. I want that statue so bad. It's so great. $400, huh? $376. Dear heavens. And you wonder why I was saying it's a really expensive habit to get into. It is a really expensive habit to get into these Hot Toy things. Let me just bring it up one more time. Ah, sweet. And look, it's got all the gems in it. Does that mean anything? I don't know if that means anything or not, but it's interesting to note. It's got all of the gems. Okay, let's move on now to the next one. I just got a few minutes left here. Let's see. Joe D'Amato writes, are you dressing up as Iron Spider at the Avengers Infinity War premiere? Nope. Probably just be slapping on. The only time I ever wear a suit is when I go to these world premieres. That's the only time I ever wear a suit. So I'll probably just be wearing a suit if I can. Let's see. ZCM writes, which one do you think is better film, Creed or Warrior? Creed, actually. I like the Warrior. I think... Oh, do you mean Warrior, like the MMA movie, or Warriors, like the classic? If you mean Warrior with Joel Edgerton and Tom Hardy, I love that movie. I do. I talk about that movie quite frequently. But I'll actually probably go Creed. That's how much I really like Creed. So I'll go Creed on that one. Good question, though. That's a good one. Comparison, Creed and Warrior. That's a good one. By the way, a lot of people still haven't seen Warrior. Tom Hardy, Joel Edgerton, Nick Nolte. Nick Nolte is their dad. totally check that movie out. It's great. Sam Fisher writes, not blaming anyone, just mentioning it. I'm not angry. I can't remember what it is you wrote before, so I'm not quite sure what you mean, but thank you for throwing that in there. John De Silva writes, 2 more recommendations. True Romance, Christian Slater, great movie. I like that one a lot. Christian Slater, Oldman, Walken, and A Time to Kill. Yep. I like both those films. I think both those films are solid recommendations. I don't think a lot of people have seen Time to Kill, as a matter of fact. So that's a good one to mention to people to check out. Rude Shot writes, if Infinity War is a global success, will the Russos be the greatest ever directors of a comic book trilogy ever, though technically they aren't direct sequels? Well, I do believe, Infinity War isn't a part of, well, I guess the Avengers, I guess it is a trilogy. Technically speaking, it's a trilogy. I don't know. That's tough. Because whenever you start talking about greatest directing performances for a comic book movie trilogy, you've got to bring Christopher Nolan and what he did with the Dark Knight trilogy. And while I didn't love The Dark Knight Rises, I would probably take Dark Knight Rises, maybe over Ultron, not sure. Let's put it this way, it would definitely be a conversation to have. I don't know which way I would go, but it would definitely be a conversation to have. But wait a minute, no, because they didn't even direct the first 2 Avengers films. So let me read your question again, Rude Shot. If Infinity War is a global success, well, technically this doesn't work, because Infinity War, they didn't direct the first 2 Avengers films, so it's really not part of the discussion. And if you just mean the Captain America movies, they didn't direct the first Captain America movie, so it's not even a discussion we can have. It's not an applicable discussion. Jordan Miller writes, just got back from seeing A Quiet Place. Holy shit, so good. I feel like the entire audience was trying not to breathe. So damn intense. I loved it. No kidding, man. I love it. I remember after the movie was done, I went into the men's bathroom to use the bathroom. And I remember totally unconsciously trying to stay as quiet as I could. Then I realized, oh my God, I'm living as if I'm in a quiet place. Like, it was the strangest thing. By the way, if you haven't seen my review for Quiet Place, it's on my YouTube channel right now. Make sure you check that out. Okay, and the final question today, and don't worry guys, if you guys have sent in more questions that I didn't get around to, tomorrow's companion video. You will get those questions answered on tomorrow's companion video. So don't worry about it. If you sent them in, like Hooflung Poo and Kim Linkras, and anybody who's sending questions after them, if I did not have time to get around to your question today, don't worry about it. You don't have to ask it again. It'll be on tomorrow's companion video, all right? So make sure you come back and check for that. So Luna Comics ends things off today with, I hope the new Marvel Disney park will at least 3 sections, Wakanda, New York, and Asgard. Plus, it would be cool if they had Defenders Easter eggs in the New York section. That's an interesting thought. I doubt they'll do Asgard since Asgard's now destroyed. Since Asgard is no longer a thing in the MCU, I doubt they'll do Asgard. But for all I know, maybe they've already announced they're doing Asgard. I thought they did announce which lands they were doing. And I can't remember which ones they are off the top of my head, but it would have been cool, right? Asgard would have been a cool one if Asgard was still in existence in the MCU. But that one really, because there's so much you could have done with that, right? You could have gone like really creative on that and been really, really cool. So that's an interesting thought. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of Open Mic. I love doing Open Mic. Thank you so much for being here, guys, and joining me for the discussion. Bunch of film fans standing around the water cooler together, talking about our favorite things. Thank you guys for being a part of it. All right, guys, just so you know, the companion video for today, you'll notice didn't go up a little bit earlier because I got really busy, but today's companion video is going to go up shortly after Open Mic here today, so you can find that there. And any questions I didn't get around to on today's Open Mic show will be on tomorrow's companion video. Make sure you check that out as well. All right, guys, that will do it for me. Thanks so much for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until the next video, bye-bye.